How many times have you wondered, does God really have a plan for my life? Maybe you're going through moments of confusion, not knowing which way to go. But I'm going to show you that there is a greater purpose, full of hope and future. If you want to learn how to find out, step by step, what God has prepared especially for you, stay with me until the end of this video. And enjoy, like, subscribe to the channel, and share this message with someone who also needs to renew faith and trust in God's plan. Let's go on this journey together. Write in the comments, God's plan is always perfect. Life often feels like a huge puzzle spread out on the table. At certain times, we feel that all the pieces are falling into place, but suddenly everything loses its meaning. It's like walking through the fog, trying to find a safe path. At such times, the question arises that does not leave the heart. God, what is your plan for me? This doubt has already accompanied great men of faith and continues to echo in us. When we look at the present without seeing the future, confusion sets in. Hope seems distant, faith falters, and trust in God is put to the test. It is at this point that we need to remember that prayer is our anchor. Even when everything around us screams uncertainty, we can rest in the Word. God does not get lost in confusion. He always has a plan for the future and peace. Often anguish comes because we look at others and fall into the trap of comparison. We see people prospering, advancing, conquering, and we are still trying to understand the next step. But each process is unique, and God's plan does not follow the human clock. Fidelity and patience are essential to get through this phase. Trust. His timing is perfect. The confusion of life can be seen as an opportunity to grow. After all, it is precisely in uncertainty that we learn to depend more on God than on our own strength. When the paths seem closed, obedience in the little opens new doors. It is in this process that faith is strengthened and hope is reborn. God turns chaos into direction. Think of an artist standing in front of a blank canvas. At first, the strokes seem disconnected, but little by little the painting takes shape. So it is with God's plan. For now you can see only loose lines, but He already sees the complete work. Your fidelity today is the ink that gives life to tomorrow's painting. The purpose does not disappear, it is just under construction. Also, confusion teaches us about humility. When we don't know where to go, we recognize our limitation and seek direction in prayer. It's like waiting for dawn after a long night. We have no control over the sun, but we know it will rise. In the same way, God's purpose will come at the right time. The key is to remain firm in trust. Finally, don't see confusion as an enemy, but as an essential part of the journey. Every uncertainty can be transformed into a dialogue with God. Every tear can be a seed of faith. And in the middle of the process, the peace that exceeds understanding takes over the heart. Life may seem like a puzzle, but in each piece, God reveals love, faithfulness, and purpose. Joseph's life is one of the greatest examples of how God's plan is fulfilled step by step, even in the midst of confusion. Just imagine, hated by his own brothers, sold into slavery, far from home, and with no prospects. To human eyes, it seemed that all was lost, but in heaven, God had already written a hope-filled future for him. After being sold, Jose still faced unfair accusations and ended up in prison. Those who look from the outside may think, where is God in this story? But the process that seemed to be suffering was, in fact, preparation. Joseph's faith and faithfulness remained firm even when everything seemed otherwise. He did not abandon trust in God, nor did he cease to seek peace in the midst of chaos. Inside the prison, Joseph continued to serve, interpreting dreams and obeying what God revealed to him. No murmuring, no giving up. This detail is precious. Many times we want the whole revealed plan, but God gives us only the next step. It was by obeying the small signs that Joseph was led to something much greater. Suddenly, the moment comes when the Pharaoh dreams and needs someone to interpret. That's when Joseph, the forgotten slave, is called. God opens a door that no man could open. Prayer, trust, and fidelity placed him before the opportunity that would change his story. What seemed like the end was just the beginning of the purpose. Then from prisoner, Joseph becomes governor of Egypt, second in command of the entire nation. The same young man who was rejected by the brothers now saved thousands of people from starvation, including his own family. This shows how God's plan is not just personal, it reaches others through us. Your life can also impact generations. The lesson is clear. God's plan does not reveal itself all at once. It unfolds like pieces of a puzzle, requiring patience, faith, and trust. Joseph could have given up, but he chose to remain faithful. And in the end, he understood that every tear was part of the preparation to fulfill his purpose. Like Joseph, you may be in a phase of apparent silence or confusion, but make no mistake, God has not forgotten you. Every closed door, every delay is part of the process. When you least expect it, faithfulness will take you to the place He has already prepared. The future is not a coincidence, it is a promise. And God never fails to keep His promises. When we think of promises, we immediately think of Jeremiah 29:11. I know what thoughts I have about you, says the Lord, thoughts of peace and not of evil, to give you the end you desire. This statement is powerful because it reminds us that even in the midst of confusion, God has a plan for hope and a future. He is not a God of chance, but of purpose. Circumstances may deceive us, but the word is firm. In Proverbs 3:5-6 is the secret. Trust in the Lord with all your heart and not lean on your own understanding. This means letting go of the habit of wanting to control every detail. Obedience is born just when we surrender our anxieties in prayer, believing that God knows what He is doing. Sometimes the problem isn't that God doesn't have a plan, but that we have a hard time waiting for the right time. We want immediate answers, but He works in processes. As in a crop, the seed does not sprout on the same day it is planted. In the same way, daily faithfulness is watered by patience until the promise blossoms. It is interesting to note that God's promise is not just about reaching a final destination, but about growing faith along the way. Every challenge builds confidence. Each apparent delay teaches us to depend more. Thus, the promise is no longer just a distant future and starts to transform the present, bringing peace in the midst of waiting. God does not promise us a life without difficulties, but a life with purpose. It was like that with Joseph, with Jeremiah, and with so many others. God's plan always involves a step of faith, a choice to trust even when we don't see. The promise is clear. He will make our paths straight. It is up to us to stand firm and not be discouraged. Maybe you look at your life right now and think, but it's all upside down. How can I believe that? This is precisely where the promise gains strength. She is an anchor for times of confusion. Prayer becomes fuel, and the word, a map. When everything seems uncertain, God's faithfulness continues unshaken. So if today you are surrounded by doubts, hold on to the promises. Declare aloud, God has thoughts of peace and a future for me. This simple attitude renews hope and changes perspective. God's plan does not fail because He is not a man to lie. He delivers what He promises, always at the perfect time. Knowing God's plan is not like opening a manual with ready-made instructions. It is a relationship process built step by step. The first secret is prayer. I'm not just talking about that quick one before bed, but a sincere conversation where you open your heart, expose doubts and even confusion. God is not bothered by their vulnerability. On the contrary, he responds with love. Prayer is the space where hope is renewed. You can start by setting aside 5 minutes in the morning, giving thanks for the new day, and asking for direction for the future. Gradually, this habit expands and becomes natural. Have you noticed that close friends talk every day? So it must be with God. Faith grows in constancy. Another essential step is to stay in the Word. The Bible is like a lantern in the midst of darkness, showing the way. If you don't know where to start, choose practical books, such as Proverbs or the Psalms. They offer direction for everyday situations. The Word is not just an ancient text, but the voice of the living God, guiding with fidelity and peace. But there is no point in praying and reading if there is no obedience. God has already revealed many simple things that we need to practice: to love our neighbor, to forgive, to act faithfully in a little. Before asking for big revelations, you need to be faithful to the small instructions. God's plan gradually opens up to those who walk confidently in every detail. Many wonder, what if I make a mistake? God's grace covers our shortcomings. He is not a prosecutor ready to punish us, but a father willing to correct and redirect us. Trust needs to be above the fear of making mistakes. More important than getting all the steps right is to keep your heart in prayer and obedience. A good practice is to write down in a notebook what you feel God is speaking through the Word and prayer. As you reread it after weeks, you will realize how He had already been preparing your heart. This strengthens faith and shows that nothing is a coincidence. Small clues come together like pieces of a puzzle, revealing the purpose. Knowing God's plan is less about figuring it all out at once, and more about learning to walk with Him every day. It is a process that requires patience, trust, and fidelity. The closer you get, the more you realize that it's not just about the future, but about experiencing peace and growth in faith right now. The plan is revealed in the walk. God's plan in our life does not fall from heaven ready and finished. It reveals itself step by step. It's like putting together a puzzle. Sometimes we think a piece doesn't make sense, but then it fits perfectly. This vision helps to face moments of confusion with more patience. Each step of the process carries a purpose, even when we don't understand it. The big mistake is to look at others and fall into the temptation of comparison. Each person is in a different process, with unique times and experiences. When you compare yourself, you steal your own peace and generate anxiety. God's plan is individual, designed for you with love and faithfulness. Trust needs to be in the Creator, not in human metrics. Applying this in practical life starts with simple choices. Take time each day for prayer and reading the Word, even if it's just 10 minutes. If you're not sure where to start, use short devotionals or even apps that send daily verses. The important thing is not quantity, but constancy. It is in this habit that hope flourishes. Another point is to obey what has already been revealed. We often ask for new directions, but we don't follow the basic instructions God has already given us. Being faithful in the small opens the way for the great. If the Bible guides us to forgive, how about starting today by releasing someone who has hurt you? This simple attitude can unlock new pieces of the puzzle. It is also helpful to surround yourself with people who strengthen faith. Join a community, study in a group, or share your prayers with someone you trust. Mutual support reminds us that we do not walk alone. God's plan may be personal, but it is never isolated. It always includes relationships that build and bring peace to the process. When you have doubts about the future, turn that uncertainty into prayer. Instead of saying, "I don't know what to do," try praying, "Lord, show me the next step." This simple change of perspective feeds faith and generates trust. Remember, God does not hide his plan. He reveals it little by little, like a father guiding a child with patience. Finally, apply fidelity in everyday life. Whether at work, in studies, or at home, do each task with excellence, as if it were for God. This principle transforms ordinary routines into times of worship, and without realizing it, you will be walking in obedience within the purpose. God's plan is not far away. It begins today. Take a deep breath now and say with conviction, God has a plan for my life and it's good. This simple statement changes the way you view challenges. Instead of focusing on confusion, you start anchoring yourself in hope. Words have power, and when aligned with God's word, they bring peace to the heart and steadfastness to faith. The worries of everyday life can be overwhelming, but remember that God's promises are greater than any anxiety. Replace "what if it doesn't work out" with "I know God is faithful." This shift in mindset strengthens confidence and makes room to experience peace in the midst of the storm. It is not denying problems, it is facing them with faith. Sharing this message with others is also part of the process. Often, as we encourage someone, we are strengthened ourselves. A word of hope can completely change the future of those who are about to give up. Never underestimate the power of prayer together or heartfelt conversation inspired by the Word. God's plan is not hidden as an unfindable secret. It reveals itself little by little in every detail of everyday life. Obedience today opens doors tomorrow. Faithfulness in small acts generates growth in faith, and so, step by step, the puzzle of life begins to show you the full picture of God's purpose for you. Maybe you're tired of waiting, but remember, Joseph also spent years before he saw the fulfillment of the promise. The process requires patience, but the result is always worth it. What seems to take time is, in fact, preparation. Trust. God is aligning everything at the right time because he never fails. So, even when everything seems confusing, choose to rest in hope. Remember Jeremiah 29:11 and Proverbs 3:5-6. These verses are reminders that the future is in the hands of a faithful and loving God. Don't walk alone. Seek strength in prayer and in the Word. You are never helpless, and when fear knocks on the door, remember that trust is a daily decision. State the promises, stand firm, and look to the greater purpose. God's plan is good, perfect, and full of hope. Your part is not to give up. Walk one day at a time, knowing that the future is safe in the hands of the one who loves you unconditionally. We have reached the end of this journey, but the learning does not end here. Now it's up to you. Will you choose to remain stuck in the confusion or trust in God's plan for your life? Remember that every prayer, every act of obedience, and every moment of faithfulness are seeds planted in fertile soil. The future is not lost, it is in the hands of a God who is faithful. Stop for a moment and reflect. Where do you need to give more trust to God today? What area of your life is still silent, waiting for the hope of promises? These questions are not meant to pressure you, but to invite you to take action. Faith grows when it leaves the field of ideas and is transformed into a practical attitude. Don't keep this message to yourself. Share it with someone who is in need of encouragement right now. Maybe a friend, a family member, or even a co-worker who's going through difficult days. You can be the answer to prayer that this person has been waiting for. A word of hope can change destinies. If you've come this far, it's because you want to know more about God's plan for your life. So continue on this journey. Pray daily, immerse yourself in the Word, and live faithfully each day. The puzzle may be incomplete, but the purpose is already under construction. And the more you trust, the more peace fills your heart. Before closing, I want to challenge you. Write in the comments a decision of faith that you will make from today. It can be as small as setting aside 5 minutes of prayer or starting to read a chapter of the Bible each day. The important thing is to take a step. Remember, God honors obedience. And of course, don't forget, subscribe to the channel, turn on notifications, and like this video. This way you continue to receive content that will strengthen your faith and renew your hope. Here you never walk alone. Let's go together, trusting in God's plan and growing in faith, one day at a time.